Hey everyone, welcome to My Time with God. My name is Karina. For those of you who don't know, and for those of you who do, well, welcome back. So, some of you all know that, God has called me to minister His word. So, this channel is simply a place where I share what, God is teaching me through His word and in my daily walk with Him. My prayer is that something shared today encourages you to grow in your own relationship with the Lord. So during my time with God this morning, I was led to read out of Isaiah 56, and there were several things that really stood out to me. Like the first thing I noticed was, that God isn't looking, for He's not looking at where we've come from, he's looking at our hearts. And sometimes we believe our past disqualifies us, right, from having a relationship with God. But Isaiah 56 reminds, reminds us and reminded me that God's invitation is open to anyone who is sincerely seeking him, He welcomes those who desire to know him and to walk in his ways. So that really encouraged me because it reminds us that God doesn't define us by, where we've been. He looks at the condition of our hearts. Another thing that stood out to me was, what God says, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all nations. You know, that tells me God's heart has always been for people. His invitation isn't limited by race, background, nationality, or, where someone comes from. His desire is that all people will come to know him. And I also noticed, that, the warning to the leaders, because, some people, they begin serving with the right heart, but somewhere along the way, we've seen plenty of them, you know, um, that you start seeing in the media, you know, um, that they've become more concerned about their own gain than serving God's people. And that doesn't mean that we talk bad about them, We continue to pray for them, because God doesn't want to see anybody perish. So that was a reminder to me that leadership is a privilege and a responsibility. God is always looking at our motives and our hearts. So if we even think about wanting to become or be in a leadership role, we want to make sure that we have the right intentions, the right motives in before we even think about trying to step in any type of leadership role. And if you even think about trying to, step into ministry, period, you need to have a servant's heart. You need to know how to serve, you know, because a servant, someone who is serving, who has a servant's heart, will always outwork the workers. You can try to, you know, uh, get in where you try to fit in, but you will be revealed. Like God will reveal the hearts of the person, from this person who loves to serve versus this person who's just doing it with the wrong intention, maybe because they want to think that if they're connected to whoever, that, they will also get some type of, I don't know, more views, or, maybe get noticed to be with the any crowd when God is calling us to stand out anyways, you know? So it's best that we, you know, have the right mind and heart. And the only way you can have the right mind and heart is to have the mind and heart of God, to be able to even serve, and then move into a leadership role, you know. And the last thing that really stood out to me too, um, was the importance of rest, you know. You can tell yourself, you know, if you've gone throughout a whole week or days and working all these shifts, and you know, you come home tired, you're not at in your best to do anything, you know, and then any little thing can agitate, irritate, whatever, you know. So God reminds us throughout his word that taking time to rest isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of obedience and trust. Sometimes we become so busy doing that we forget to simply spend time with him and allow him to refresh us. And sometimes, you know, we think, oh, God has given us this time of rest. Who knows how long your time of rest is, you know? But then we find ourselves trying to do all kinds of things during that time. And then when it's go time, you're going to be wishing that you rested. You know what I mean? So if God is calling you to rest, rest. And we all should be resting, you know, at least having that one day of rest. I know there's a whole bunch of debate of when we're supposed to rest, Sunday, Saturday, but listen here, that's between you and God. You take it up between you and God and when you're supposed to rest. But God is saying that we need to at least rest, at least take a day of rest and give that day, dedicate that day to the Lord, you know, spending time with him in his word and in prayer. Okay. So no matter where you've come from, right? This is this is this is what I want to leave you all. You know, if I could leave you guys with any encouragement today, it will be this: that no matter where you've come from or what you've been through, you know, God's invitation is still open. So keep seeking him, keep spending time in his presence, you know, because he is able. He is able to bring healing, restoration, wisdom, and direction as you continue to draw close to him. And you will be able to receive the healing, restoration, wisdom, and direction as, you know, when you seek his face, you know, ask, he tells us, and you shall receive. Knock and the door shall be open. Seek and you shall find. So before I go, I love to hear from you. You know, what is God teaching you in this season? Or if you've read Isaiah 56, what stood out to you? And if you didn't read Isaiah 56, go read Isaiah 56 on your own time and come back and comment, you know, in the comments below and tell me, you know, what God showed you in your time of reading, you know, because your insight or testimony, you know, may encourage someone else who's reading through them. Okay. That's my time with God. God bless. Be blessed. Stay blessed. Until next time.